Coisa.
Hi, my name is Rich Watson. I'm excited to be here today. I'm excited for the opportunity to work with COISA again. This is the second video I've been able to shoot with them. And today I'm going to talk about something that I'm very passionate about, something that's very near and dear to my heart, and that is healing the healer. Some people call it care for the caregiver. The bottom line is this is helping those that often spend their times helping us. So I want to share some slides with you and just share some thoughts with you on this subject. Again, today we're going to be talking about this concept of healing the healer. And what exactly does this mean? Healing the healer means ensuring that those who are involved in the healing process of others are being taken care of. And we look to those that are in the medical profession to take care of us, to help heal us from illness. But oftentimes what we don't realize, and as the studies have shown, is the depression, the burnout that they go through, especially during times like we are experiencing right now with COVID-19 during this pandemic. Now, I want to take a pause here for a second and explain when I say medical profession. For the purpose of what I'm talking about today, I want to ensure that we understand that is doctors, that is nurses, that is hospital workers, that is anybody that at this point is seeing an influx of patients that are injured, that are sick, that are potentially passing away, family members that are mourning. This could be anybody that works in a hospital setting, not just doctors, not just nurses. There's a lot more to this than that. So that's who we're going to be talking about a little bit today. We're going to be talking about that healing for the healer. And again, in this case, we're talking about those who work in the medical profession, in a hospital environment or other environments where they would be seeing an increase of what they would normally see due to this pandemic. What exactly, though, happens when they avoid healing, when they avoid taking care of themselves? We used the word depression earlier, and I think everybody understands what depression is. It was on the previous slide. But burnout is something that I don't know if many people are familiar with. And burnout has been defined as a chronic stress, a state of chronic stress that includes emotional and physical exhaustion. It also includes things such as detachment and reduced personal accomplishment. Now, I want you to stop and just think about that for a second. If those who are supposed to be caring for us, those who are in that profession, are in a state of chronic stress, how able are they going to be to heal us? And I liken this to the concept of being on a plane, right? And when you're on a plane and the oxygen masks come down, they always tell us to put the oxygen mask on ourselves first. If somebody who's in the healing profession is constantly taking care of somebody else, in other words, they're putting the oxygen mask on them first and not taking care of themselves, they're only going to be able to last so long and go so far before something happens. And that's what we're trying to prevent. That's where we're going to provide some tips, some tricks, some tools that can help maybe go in your tool belt and help people move forward. So there's three aspects for healing the healer that I would like to discuss. That is physical fatigue, compassion fatigue, and trauma. Now, for trauma, I understand that is a very large subject. It encompasses so many different things. So we're not going to go into that today. What I would like to say for trauma is that it manifests itself different in everybody. PTS, post-traumatic stress, comes across in many different ways, many different signs and symptoms, as nightmares, withdrawal, depression, mood swings, and the list could go on. And each person will show that differently. And the treatment for it can range anywhere from meditation to traditional therapy, equine therapy, and the list could go on. What I would like to say about trauma and post-traumatic stress, if you feel yourself experiencing that and viewing and showing some of the signs and symptoms, do not ignore that. Seek help immediately in whatever form that looks like for you. So let's go now and talk about physical fatigue and compassion fatigue. Physical fatigue is exactly what it sounds like. Physical fatigue is what happens when you are putting in extra hours. You're working harder than normal. You're seeing more patients than normal. And this can happen at any time, but really is more likely to occur during a time like what we're experiencing now with COVID-19. And what are some signs and symptoms of it? It's simple. Physically, You're not able to do the things you would normally do. Something as simple as climbing up the stairs after work is tiring to you. You don't have the energy you used to have. Your body is just exhausted. It's not about what you're feeling here. It's about the muscles in your body and the sheer fatigue that you are experiencing. Some people have described this as even feeling muscle soreness, going to bed and waking up completely stiff because they've just worked so hard physically. And this can be things such as you normally work a 12-hour day, but in this case, you're working 5 or 6 12-hour days, and you're on your feet 10 or 11 of those hours, that physical exhaustion. So the symptoms range from anywhere from just muscle soreness, tightness, inability to do the things you would normally do, all of that. But the next one is compassion fatigue. Compassion fatigue is a little bit different, and this is that what occurs when you're continually bearing witness to the suffering of others. Compassion fatigue is more about what you feel and hear, not so much in your physical body. And this often is related to therapists, but I can assure you that it applies very well to those in the medical profession and those who work in hospitals, because you're constantly watching individuals either suffer or family members suffer because of what individuals are seeing, and that can cause that compassion fatigue. Now, some signs and symptoms of compassion fatigue is a loss of compassion towards others and towards self, uncontrollable burst of anger, sense of worthlessness, and even can manifest itself as resentment towards patients, towards their family members. Some would say when you become cold or callous towards others, that's also a sign of that. And what are some causes? Some causes are very normal causes: work overload, lack of control over your work, unsupportive work environment. And this is what I think is the biggest one: unrealistic expectations, often set by yourself, not by your bosses or by your employers, but set by self. All of those start to wear on a person and start to cause this compassion fatigue. So with physical fatigue and compassion fatigue, the good news is the treatment is the same for both. So I want to talk just a little bit about treatment. Treatment looks different for everybody. There is no one size fits all. So what you have to do is take the different treatment options and experiment with them. See which one works, see which one doesn't. Some people really lean towards the meditation aspect of it. Well, that's great if that works for you. That's not something particularly that works well for me. Some people lean towards gym time and physically just exercising and working out. That's one of my go-tos. That works very well for me, but it may not work for the next person. Nothing will work on the first try. You have to stick to it a few tries, give it a shot. So what are some other options? We mentioned going to the gym is one. We also mentioned meditation is one. There's also balance, work-life balance. Being able to turn off work when you're away from work. Being able to work but then go home and be home. And everybody has a different way of doing that. And it can be very difficult depending on what you do for a living. I would say it's difficult no matter what you do for a living. But that work-life balance. The other thing, being able to talk to somebody. And let me be clear, being able to talk to somebody does not necessarily mean going to sit on a couch like we show the picture here. It doesn't mean going to sit on a couch and talk to a therapist. It could be talking to a pastor. It could be talking to a friend. It could be talking to somebody else in your field who's experiencing the same thing. What I would say is, as long as that conversation doesn't turn into a gripe fest, which would in turn add more stress to you. So being able to talk it out. All of those are parts of self-care. So how does this apply to us so that we can help heal the healer? Well, that's really easy. Being able to recognize those signs and symptoms we talked about for physical fatigue and for compassion fatigue, and then being able to know the avenues that people have who are in these professions to be able to help themselves. Now, I want to give you a good example. Just a few days ago, I was feeling a very high level of stress from work and from several things that were going on. And my wife was able to pick it up. Why? Because I was having these short little bursts of anger where I was snapping here and snapping there, and she picked up on it very quickly. Her immediate response to me was, hey, after dinner, why don't you go upstairs, get on your computer, maybe watch a show, take a bath, do something to relax yourself. And then when you're ready, just come on back down. She didn't have to call me out. She didn't have to say, hey, you're acting really stressed, your anxiety's flaring, you're being angry. She just very calmly made a suggestion. And I recognized it for what it was worth. I took the hour to myself, came back downstairs, and was significantly better for it. We can do that for those who are in the healing profession. We can help them to become better, to work through their physical fatigue, to work through their compassion fatigue. So that's what I have for you today. Healing the healer, physical fatigue, compassion fatigue, trauma. Focusing on self-care, focusing on ensuring that when these things manifest themselves, you're able to have the tools you need to push through that.